Hello and welcome back to another RiftGuides WildRift video. Today we are going to take a look at Mr. Pete, a high elo, super high elo challenger jungle. But before we hop into this and talk about the build, let's talk about a question of the day. What is the best way to deal with an aggressive opponent in lane? Let me know in the comments below. Now let's talk about the build. For items, you want Youmuu's Ghost Blade for the snowball potential. It grants you a lot of movement speed, AD, cooldown reduction, and also just overall damage. The next item is going to be Black Cleaver, granting you super nice stats, as well as ability haste on top. This item is mandatory as the game goes on. After this, you want Cyrilda's Grudge for more armor penetration, cooldown reduction, and just making sure that you'll demolish your opposition. After that, we go into the situational items, which in this case, we want to go for Spirit Visage. Spirit Visage grants us a lot more healing and inflates the HP count, which we desperately need. For our last item, in this very instance, we want Guardian Angel. We go in, we probably get 1 or 2 kills, but then we get killed due to our lack of defenses, unless we can drain tag the enemy team, but we'll come back to life with a full set of rotations. The runes, you want Conqueror because it works best with the way you play the game in terms of using spells, Triumph because of the streaking nature of your champion, Bone Plating even in the jungle role because it's the most broken rune in the game, and Nimbus Cloak. That way you can smite the enemy with Slowing Smite and just chase them down without any problem. Also, using Flash with this rune will make it so easy to just chase down people with the additional movement speed. And now, let's move over to the gameplay. And we are back with another gameplay, and this time we have Pete, a super high tier challenger jungle, in this video rank 33 on the leaderboard. He is playing AATROX for us, and we'll be seeing how this champion can take over the map. In case you weren't familiar, even though AATROX was nerfed like ages ago, this champion is still a menace to deal with, especially in the jungle role. Any kind of nerf they do to champions don't necessarily translate into those champions being weak, it's just people seeing the nerf label and then they're like, unlucky guys, champion has been nerfed, it's unplayable now. But that's absolutely untrue. Just because a champion got nerfed doesn't mean the champion is bad, it just means it's less good. So a champion that is less good isn't necessarily a bad champion, and just because a champion got buffed doesn't mean he is a good champion, it just means he's less bad. Try to view it from that perspective. Now we got AATROX, he wants to go for the Youmuu's Ghost Blade for more speed on the map, just more power, and just generally influencing the map. Typically, you'll see this control board every single time in most likely every single game you play as a jungle because it's a very safe bet to place and just allows you to see what's happening in your jungle without any timer on it. Theoretically speaking, Mr. AATROX should full clear towards his bot side, or rather top side, depending on how you view it, starting with his Crocs. This is the best possible clear. Look at how he uses the sweet spot to deal the most damage to those camps and then kites them towards the next buff. Ideally, he swaps he swaps the target of his attack so the cleave hits the other target, so he just saves like 1 second of time and goes over to the next camp. Ideally speaking, he should input an auto attack in between every single first ability cast to maximize DPS, because you can just instantly animation cancel it into it. It's just a slight DPS increase, which will later on, the moment you have a Sheen item, become so much more important. Otherwise, you'll be losing too much damage. For those AoE camps, the same applies, but it's not that important here. For the jungle clear, there's something you can debate. If you want to full clear anyway, is it really the best choice to put a point in your second ability, or do you just want to put another point to your first ability? It really depends on how you view it. Both can work out, and it's just generally something you need to figure out for yourself. But with the idea of just fully clearing the jungle, it's just good to increase your clear speed over everything else. With the state of the game though, and him contesting Scuttle Crab, having a point in his second ability is more beneficial for him. His bot lane already said goodbye world and suicided for fun, so he just takes a Scuttle Crab immediately because the enemy bot lane is forced to recall and his bot lane will be back faster with resources spent, so it's a completely safe bet to do. Then he just goes back to his jungle and clears his jungle. So now, after this, he'll be probably presented with 2 choices. Look for a top lane gank, or red bot lane, depending on what is happening, or recall and go for his respawning Croc camp. You hate to see it at the buff reset, you just hate to see it. He wanted to be cool and unluckily it failed, showing us the mode. You know how it goes. Typical play, the enemy jungle cleared and just dove his top laner, completely normal. So now the AATROX is thinking, what can I do next? If the enemy team doesn't have flash and there's a lantern available, the Thresh can just lantern him in and go for a kill. However, the Thresh does so really late, so it's completely desynced, but it will be enough because the enemy team will most likely not have summoner spells, therefore the AATROX can just run them down with his superior movement speed. With the level advantage now in place, there is the question, does he want to go for the camp or not, but there's a Twisted Fate on the map, so it's rather risky in doing so. Nonetheless, with the play going into the way it does, he might get the kill. Oh, luckily he got the wrong card onto him, so he'll be completely fine. Fighting the Nautilus here is not a good idea. He should not do this. This is grief. Like, he knew that the enemy was respawning, so he should just leave. Because he has enough gold for his item spike, and there's another enemy in the back. Like, this entire fight is completely pointless and absolutely int. Like, he had a full item in base, and he could have been so happy, and even if he manages to survive here, it's still an absolute gamble, because this fight turned into a fight which was not necessary at all. He had the full item, could have recalled and cleared his camps with zero risk. Now, ideally he goes back to his Croc camp, and then he basically asks himself the question, what does he want to do next? If he wants to go for a proactive play, he doesn't go towards his bot side, but clears his top side and goes for another play around the Thresh. But if he wants to just farm up and be safe, he just fully clears the jungle. He views it differently here. He goes from his wolf camp to his raptors and then fully clears down, which lets us assume that he wants to go full play onto the Riven. With Twisted Fate's ultimate down for probably another like 40 seconds, 30 seconds, that is a viable possibility, but if he goes for a play while the Twisted Fate ultimate is up and the enemy jungle comes, then we have a problem. Now, if he wants to go for a gank, he should go through the brush and not walk through the enemy tri-brush, because if this tri-brush is water, which is most of the time is, he might get spotted early on and then any kind of play potential is ruined. With him seeing the Nautilus though, there are options he can actually look into. This was warded, something like this was to be expected that there is a river ward, and now he's trying to push in the wave and go for a proactive play and getting the flash. The Olaf is for some reason just going a little bit ham and putting him into a position where he has to commit fully for the kill, and now we have a problem. So, even though because we got the kill here, if the enemy Nautilus chose to not show, then he can't just take the Herald. Now the enemy is going for the substantially worse objective for whatever reason, I don't know. Like, the Nautilus just invested so much for this kill down there, and they could contest this Herald and get so much gold for free, but the enemy is going for a useless Ocean Dragon, and now the AATROX will be absolutely accelerated. He'll have prime access to platings and infinite amounts of gold. So what we see here now is going for the Mercury Threads because he hates the Twisted Fate, and now he's questioning himself, okay, what do I want to do? Where do I want to make a play, and where is it the most reliable? With the tower health in the Dragon lane being as it is, he can instantly take down the tower, but is it really the good play? Because he'll be sharing the gold with so many people. Ideally, he just wants the gold for himself because he is the carry. He's playing solo queue and he wants to make sure that he has enough gold to carry the game. Don't forget, he only has roughly 1 minute left of doing so. You don't want to use Herald after 7 minutes. You don't want to lose it, you don't want to lose access to plates because it's all the Herald is for, money. He just goes for the platings. Hopefully the Thresh doesn't walk into range, but it looks like he's walking into range, so the gold will be shared. Gold has been shared, but the enemy is griefing it. They didn't see the Herald and immediately backed off, so they'll be punished. At least one will be punished. He'll get another charge and that's it. Then, using his bot lane's presence to invade into the enemy jungle, waiting for any enemy that goes past or maybe potentially face checks using brushes. It's a very powerful technique that people usually just don't abuse for whatever reason. If you have access to the enemy jungle, go into there, pillage the enemy jungle, go for kills, trap for kills. Twisted Fate was completely oblivious to the fact that the enemy was in his jungle and positioned completely deadly or suicidal in his own lane. Now, with the people down, he can just quickly dive into the enemy jungle and get one camp. He has a full item in his base, so he should just go base and buy the item. With this in mind, now we can go for two different approaches again. We can clear the jungle towards the next potential play, which would be, for example, around the Riven, or we could just farm it up and wait for something else to happen. Now, we know that the enemy's jungle on his top side is available, like we know the red buff is there, so it's less likely for the enemy jungle to be bot side. Therefore, we can force plays down there, given the fact that Nautilus wants to clear his jungle camps. If the Nautilus appears here and we don't see that the enemy has red buff, we will know that the enemy still has red buff available, which means we can invade at a later point. Nautilus is still not here as expected, still busy clearing his jungle camps, and we can just dive to poor Ezreal, who didn't get the notice that this is a very bad spot for him. All of this was absolutely telegraphed. We see the Nautilus now with the red buff, absolutely delayed. We could have known about this completely beforehand if we were the enemy team, however, we still died to it. Pete surviving, unbelievably close, and does he die to the camp? That would be so funny. No, he doesn't, okay. Even if you're this low, it doesn't really matter. If you kite the camps well, you'll be completely fine. And there, that's it. I would like to see a Quicksilver now on Pete, because he's snowballing and the only thing that can stop him is CC. And if he goes for a Quicksilver, he'll make it impossible for the enemy to lock him down, and then he can just run them down. This would be probably the best potential purchase. Other than that, you could go for Stasis, but this is just like a more survivability oriented play thing, or if he wants to believe, or if he has the trust in his teammates that they'll do something with him in terms of dive play. Now, it's time for him to clear his jungle again and prepare for the second Herald. The second Herald here could allow him to take down a tier 2 into a tier 3 depending on the situation, but he has to have a mind that the enemy gets the second dragon, which might make things more troublesome if his teammates wants to contest this. But now, you can use, as you see, the lovely sweeper to just check over brushes to see the silhouette of enemy champions and then get everything you want for free. The real question is now, if he didn't commit for another longsword or 2 longswords in his inventory and rather for a Quicksilver or a Stasis, would he have lived? I say yes. Because he has already reached a critical point, or rather critical mass, of being strong enough to warrant having such an enchant, because then he's protecting his shutdown and overall the gold he's giving away, which is very important. Now, he has died in this attempt, so the enemy has the possibility of defending the objective or getting area control, or just delaying it in general. With this in mind, he is now back on his way to this objective, and there will be probably a fight. The question is, what is going to happen? Who is gonna win? Like, we have ultimate available, we have all the things we want, and he could have popped the ultimate early to get another reset on the kill. The real question is, why isn't he doing so? Why are we still waiting so long for an engage? He's absolutely obliterating them for free, and there's nothing the enemy can do. And now his team, after this play, can get both things. They can get Dragon and Herald. As this happens, the people or the teammates should ideally get gold around the map, like take all the waves available. Don't waste too much time. He has the option of running to the Dragon immediately, but he takes the Herald reset for some extra power spike. And now, since his team didn't reset yet, he can't go to Dragon. Like, he needs to wait for his team to be in position, and if they happen to die, things get really troublesome. He gets a kill here, but now he doesn't have ultimate anymore. And he's walking up to a lot of chunky targets. So he will probably get this Dragon, but if his teammates don't move up with him, he will die. But as you see, every second spent on the map in a wrong manner can cost you a lot in terms of potential. With his Cyrilda item though, he will slow them down after CCing them, which is really nice to have. It's really high burst build because he has lethality and Cyrilda, but he's also very squishy, as you basically saw. Anything that touches him can blow him up, because he only regens life if he blows up people. And if he gets CC'd and instantly dies, he can't do that. So the question is, when will he finally buy either Stasis or the Quicksilver enchant? Because one or the other, I believe, are very much mandatory. Also, he has Flash, and whenever AATROX has Flash, things get really troublesome for the enemy backline. If he gets a third Q into the enemy backline, he will instantly kill them. He has enough damage to do so. Also, he used the Herald earlier on the mid lane tower. I'm not a friend of this, because in solo queue, in terms of being like egoistic, you are most of the time getting an inhibitor for free with Second Herald because people are completely oblivious as to what happens on the map. And I wish I was joking, but it's simply the truth. It's really weird and it shouldn't happen like that, but it does. For all those people wondering why he's going Spirit Visage gives him a lot of HP, the enemy has some magical threat, Ezreal does some magical damage, Nautilus does magical damage, Twisted Fate does magical damage, and he has a lot of healing, so it's really beneficial for him to have this item just for inflating his HP count and survivability. When face checking this jungle, yes, he should use the sweeper earlier, just so he knows if there are people around him. Now he got rooted, the only thing that can stop him happens. He should not use his flash for this. Okay, he should still not use his flash for this, it's not worth it. Now with the people dead, he can contest Nasher or force Nasher. And don't forget this, in solo queue or generally in any type of play, you want that once you get killed, you want to threaten the enemy objectives, because the enemy has to face check you. And if the enemy has to face check you, it will become substantially easier for your team to play, because you don't have to do anything. They will come to you, and then you'll turn and then you'll kill them. That's how it goes. If it happens now, if the enemy comes close to this, even if he doesn't have smite, doesn't matter, the enemy doesn't know, they'll get immediately killed. The only issue would be if somebody would steal this, but realistically speaking, that's not going to happen. Nautilus tries to go in for the steal, which doesn't make sense, and honestly speaking, Thresh should be way further up and then try to deny the Nautilus entry to the pit whatsoever, so this can never happen. But but Thresh was not paying attention at all. This kind of play doesn't serve anything. Like, he needs to be in sync with his teammates now. Honestly speaking, even going for this kill, it doesn't change too much. Like, he gets one, it's okay, but now he should just stop. He should just stop. There's nothing to accomplish for him, and he'll just get ran down. He needs to wait for his team to be in position for his plays to matter, and now he's desyncing himself. He lost all the resources he had in terms of HP, and now his teammates can't capitalize on his presence in mid lane, nor can he capitalize on the presence of his mid lane, of his teammates in other lanes, because now he's going back to his jungle. He has Nasher buff for like half the duration left, and nothing is happening. And this is all because he went further for more kills without his teammates being in positions. These were all just luxury kills. If those kills at this point in the game don't net anything in terms of realistic power spikes to take down certain objectives, or just net you towers, inhibitors, anything along those lines, they're just luxury kills. And all of this was just time waste. Nothing happened on the map, and the Baron buff hasn't accomplished anything so far, and we are close to just 1 quarter left. And only now we are getting slight value of this because we go closer to towers. The enemy team is completely forcing plays on the other side of the map, which means he'll be allowed to have a tier 2 tower on the other side of the map, but then again, even without the Baron buff, they would have gotten this. So him desyncing himself cost him so much in terms of pressure on the map. And now he's flanking, ulting early for the movement speed, very important, and he should just one-shot somebody. The enemy is just dying, like there's no way to survive for the enemy team. And with this flank, because he paid attention to the minimap, like he played on the other side of the map, his team played on all 3 lanes at the same time, and the enemy has to respond to 1 lane, then he collapses on the middle lane, gets the kill from behind, runs them down because he has the movement speed and the damage and everything he needs for the chase down potential. He gets the free kills and just cleans up. But don't forget, like any mistake you do along those lines, just any slight overstep with such a major buff can cost you so much pressure on the map, and that's not worth it. And that's it for today's video. Thank you all for watching, and if you enjoyed the content, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. See you tomorrow.